On today's episode, I want to show you how the invention of this small little chipset changed the guitar in a big way.
You're such a dork.
In the 1950s, we learned to turn up our tube amps and create overdrive. In 1962, we were given the first fuzz pedal that used transistors, overloaded them, and caused a beautiful new sound that was used on tons of recordings and changed music forever. But in 1968, a brand new piece of technology was invented, the operational amplifier. And by the early 70s, it helped create the very first distortion pedals. Let me explain how it works. While the very first fuzz pedals of the 60s overloaded transistors to create their sound, the very first distortion pedals in the early 70s started with a good clean boost circuit. I know what you're thinking, that's crazy, but let me explain. This is a schematic of how to use an operational amplifier as a clean boost. So I'm gonna walk you through it. Your guitar enters in some passive components, and then it reaches this triangle. That is the op amp. Now when it comes out of the op amp, it's loud as you want it to be, but it's still really clean. It's pretty much an MXR Micro Amp pedal. That's kind of what this schematic represents. Now this is key. You have your loud signal that you've produced and it stayed clean, but then it passes through the output of the circuit. You see these little swirls? This is what I call the danger zone. When you go through here, these diodes grab the loud clean signal, clamp down on it, they clip it away, and they eat away at it like little distortion monsters. Yeah, that's what it is. And that's why this is so cool. With a fuzz, you just get what you got. You overloaded transistors and you can shape it a little. But with this, you start with a huge clean signal, you come across and you use whatever diodes you want, whatever circuitry you want down here, and you can create your own unique take on distortion. And that's what happened in the early 70s. So let me introduce to you my first two guests. The very first distortion pedal to ever use this new hard clipping technique came about in 1973-74, and it's one of these. Now, there's a problem here. Dan Armstrong has the blue clipper, he's in London, and he says an MXR sales rep stops by, and MXR just so happens to release the Distortion Plus a few months later. MXR denies these claims, and to be really honest, neither company has any good documentation you can trust. They don't really know when they designed it, and they don't really know when they sold the first unit. So this is a real doozy. But you know, just to be safe, and because we're all really nice here on the internet, let's just say that they both came up with the same thing at the same time. It is possible. Now, the blue clipper is really cool because you just plug it into your guitar. You don't need a pedal. You plug this in, you flip the switch, and you rock and roll. One thing that really sets the Distortion Plus apart from the blue clipper is the simple fact that way more of these were made and sold. This was in a lot of guitar shops. Any guitar player almost could get a hold of it, and it ended up on records and all over the radio. Because of this, it was copied, and it's one of the most copied pedals ever. And a lot of what I'm going to show you after this is a direct result of the Distortion Plus. There was also a pedal by Gretsch called the Controfuzz that came out in 1974. It's not a fuzz, it just says Controfuzz. It's pretty much the same thing as the Blue Clipper and the Distortion Plus, but here's the deal. I don't have one, and I have a lot of pedals, and it really bothers me that I don't have it. So here's a photo of that pedal. If you've seen it, I'd like for you to report that to me directly here at JHS, because that pedal really needs to come home to me. I need it. I just need you guys to know that I'm missing this pedal. The BeeGees debuted with their first album in 1965, but Roland released the BeeGee in 1975. This is a really great take on hard clipping in the usual Roland Boss fashion. It's a little fancier. It's got some input and output sections on it that don't exist in the other pedals, but it's awesome and it sounds like classic rock. The next one is fairly popular and pretty well known. It is the DOD Preamp Overdrive 250. Now, DOD re-released this a few years ago in kind of a glittery case, and the website said it was released in 1973. Now, I highly doubt that because of some different things that I won't get into here. I think it was released in 77. People have dated a gray box version. The first issues are actually in a gray box, and they date the parts inside that to 1976 on a couple occasions. I think that those parts were 1976 parts. They sat around on shelves in manufacturing warehouses, and then the pedals are actually built and sold in 77. That's my opinion. I think it's pretty good, you know, but either way, the pedal sounds awesome and it is a classic. In 1977, we have another Distortion Plus kinda 250 clone. It is the Guyatone Zoom Box. This is really old because the paint's falling off and it does not have a power jack. This is a later 80s issue. So this is a 77, this is from the 80s. The Edge actually used this on a bunch of early U2 recordings. You can hear it on Live at Red Rocks, I believe. This might be my favorite sounding one. It has some serious mojo parts like a metal can op amp. Super nerdy, super awesome. I like it. In 1977, there was another pedal that I don't have. It was the DeArmond Square Wave. If you've seen it, here's a photo. Just please let me know that it's safe. Let me know that you could send it to me. I really need that pedal. That's all. In 1977, a company called Ross from here in the Midwest came out with a line of pedals that improved upon or replicated MXR designs. This is basically a Distortion Plus, but it has some serious mojo, and I love the enclosure. This is a later version of it, a black enclosure, but yeah, I'm gonna play this one for you. In 1978, one of my favorite pedals ever was released, the ProCo Rat. The designer of this pedal was known to modify MXR and other distortions prior to this release. So without a doubt, he learned how to get to this design through the Distortion Plus and the others that followed. With that said, let's just play the thing. Also in 1978, Boss gave us the DS-1. It is a hard clipper and it has some roots in these pedals that I've shown prior. It's an amazing circuit. Everybody has one. You probably have 3 or 4. Your grandma has one, your friends, your dentist, you know. It's the famous orange distortion box. In December of 1978, another pedal that I don't have was released. It is the Bobtronics Bobulator. It's a hard clipper. It's super awesome. I can't even find a picture of it. If any of you guys have seen it, if you've ever had one, if you know where I can find one, I need you to talk to that pedal. I need you to say, Josh Scott said on his vlog to find you and to mail you to him. I will pay shipping. I will give you a free JHS pedal. I don't know what, I'll do anything. Like I'm hurting to find this pedal. Can you help me find this pedal? Can you? Another Distortion Plus copy from '79 was the Coron Distortion 15. I'm not gonna play it. It sounds really good. And I like the narrow box. I think you do too. Let me, however, walk you through some classic hard clipping circuits from the 80s, 90s, and even modern stuff, because there's a lot of them and they all come from those origins of 73, 74. First up is the Marshall, the Guv'nor pedal. There's a lot of great distortion pedals based around this, and this one itself is fantastic. I based my Angry Charlie on it. We have the 5050 by Pelican Noiseworks. This is a 60 cycle hum kind of exclusive thing. It's a DOD 250 side by side, so you can stack 2 of them. Earthquaker has a similar one as well. And this is a good example of how pedal builders forget things. I don't actually know the year I did this, but I designed this pedal called the Boost Overdrive for Jet City amplification. I think it was around 2010, but I don't really know. It is a DOD 250 type circuit. If you see one, snatch it up because they go for pretty cheap. There is the Ibanez SD-9 Sonic Distortion. It's kind of in the shadow of the DS-9 at all times, but it's really, really great. Robert Keeley made the DS-9, which has this in it as well as a classic DS-1 circuit because they're similar. We have the OCD by Fulltone. He sold 50 million of these, pretty sure. As far as rat circuits go, the Wood Cutter by Big Ear is fantastic. I have an old pedal called the All-American, if you can hunt that up. And then the Iron Horse by Walrus is another really great rat. And last but not least is the mighty Klon Centaur. It has hard clipping diodes. A lot of people think this is a soft clipper, like a tube screamer type thing, but it is not. That's all I have. We're done. You've seen them all. Good job, guys. Today's record time is brought to you by the band Big Star, and this is called the #1 record because it was their first record, and it is exceptional. It's a perfect example of a really good 70s rock record. You've probably heard some of these songs and didn't know it, especially one of the tracks which became the theme song for that 70s show. And then there's a track on here called 13, which has one of my favorite lyrics ever, where he tells his girlfriend's dad to get off his back. I think that sums it up. If you have not heard this, you need to check it out. It's really, really good. And in those comments below, tell me about your favorite 70s rock album. And by rock album, it better have distorted electric guitar. Thanks so much for watching this episode. In the comments below, I would love to know what your favorite pedal that I played today was. I'd love to know why you liked it and how you'd fit that into your rig, and if you own any of those pedals. And then there's some of you guys who were around in 73, 74, 75, and you saw these first distortion pedals hit the market. Please, please tell me all about that in the comments. What was the advertising like? What did they say? Where are the stores at that you bought them? Which ones did you buy first? I'd really love to learn from your experiences and kind of be part of that story with you. If you like this episode, hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications of future episodes. And before you go, I want to give one last big, huge shout out to Ernie Ball and Brian Ball. This is the guitar that we built. It's on last week's episode. If you haven't seen it, it's called Who is Ernie Ball? We tell Ernie's story, but we get to go through the guitar factory at Music Man, and we picked out the color, we picked the exact piece of wood for the neck and the body, the pickups, the whole thing, and this is exceptional. This is all I played today, and it's super, super versatile. So a big, huge thank you. That's all I have for today. So you go have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.